So hi everybody, and welcome to Munro Live again. And again, we have Sean Mitchell, who has just come back from an exciting adventure with his Polestar 2. Welcome again to Sean. Thank you for coming.
Hey, yeah, thanks Sandy. Thanks for having me on, and excited about talking about the Polestar 2 and all of my exciting unplanned and planned adventures while testing out the car.
Good. Well, as you know, we had one in here, but I'm eager to hear what you have to say before I tell you what I thought. But I am interested in what you thought of it and how it compares, and just in general, what you're thinking on the Polestar.
Yeah. By the time this recording goes live, I should have a Polestar 2 review up on my channel, and looking forward to that. I'm trying to branch out a little bit and be a little bit more intentional about testing out other cars. I know Teslas very well, and they're fantastic cars, but I'm also curious about tasting and trying some of other vehicles from other automakers. So recently I rented a Polestar 2 from Turo. I tried to reach out to Polestar and ask for a press vehicle, but they didn't have any available. So my problem-solving skills then kicked into gear. Found one in Dallas from an owner who was putting it up on the Turo market, and he was fantastic. I had it a couple of days, and took it on a short road trip from Dallas to Austin, and we can talk a little bit more about this later or now if you want, but the unplanned event was that on my way back up to Dallas, the car ended up shutting down. There was a fault in the 12-volt battery, which is interesting because it ended up impacting the entire car. I had no acceleration. I had to pull over to the side of the road, and it was this huge fiasco because I was waiting for a tow truck for like 3 hours, and eventually just gave up and said, "Hey, listen, owner, you take care of this. I got to get back to Dallas to catch a flight," and ended up finding a poor soul Uber driver to drive me from Austin to Dallas, and $260 later, I finally made it to my hotel room at about 2:33 in the morning.
Should have just had him drive you back home, straight back to Denver. I mean, $250. Heck, yeah, man, what a good deal. You know, it's always an adventure when you're trying out something new. But I don't know if you're aware of it, but there's been a ton of people who've had the 12-volt situation, because really and truly, everything's great on an electric car, except for one antique, and that's the 12-volt battery. And I'm telling you flat, that thing just drives people wild. We had tons of people talking about Teslas. The 12-volt battery died, and the next thing you know, they were stuck in Timbuktu and had no way of getting home, and what the heck's wrong, and nobody understood. And we did actually sessions on, hey, you know what? If nothing's working, it's the 12-volt battery. And then I'd have, smart people telling me that, well, no, it can't possibly be that, because after all, you've got this gigantor, 78 kilovolt battery that's kilovolt hours that you can tap into and blah, blah, blah. No, you don't. No, it's a 12-volt battery that presents the misery of the century. Yeah, and charging it back, I don't know why they discharge, but I know that almost every one of the everybody I've ever talked to has had a 12-volt situation, including us right here at Munro. The very first Tesla we took apart, the very first Model 3, crapped out on us, and it was the 12-volt battery.
It just seems odd to be a slave to such a small battery when you've got this massive battery pack. And to give some additional color or context on the car, I had just gotten done charging at an Electrify America charging station, so I had plenty of range. It wasn't the high voltage battery that was the issue. There was 160 miles on the battery pack, and all of a sudden I'm on the highway in the fast lane, and I've got this decreased acceleration, and I've got people riding behind me, and they're thinking I'm being an asshole by going slow in the fast lane. I'm trying to get over and as fast as I can and get off the highway. Fortunately, everything worked out okay, and I got back home to Denver, but it made for an interesting, fun story.
So did anybody shake their fist and say, get a horse, or better yet, get an ICE vehicle or anything like that? No?
In the moment, I was just trying to focus on getting off the highway as safely as possible, because I didn't know how quickly the thing was going to lose power. It was, I was going 75 miles an hour, and then all of a sudden I get this little turtle icon on the screen, and I think there was a message as well that said that the speed or the acceleration was limited. It's a lot like a Tesla. When you're running out of range on the high voltage battery pack, you've got this this limited acceleration, and unfortunately, I know the running out of range on the Tesla all too well. So I know that experience, and I felt like my instincts kicked in with this Polestar 2, because I knew exactly what was going on, and I knew that I needed to get off the highway as quickly as possible so that I wasn't stranded in the middle of the road.
Right, yeah. And that's one of the things that's really some people find detrimental. They just don't get it. What do you mean the little battery failed? It's got a big battery. Why doesn't it charge the little battery? And to be quite frank, I have no idea how these things can possibly happen. I've heard explanations from guys wizards in software, or my own guys here, electrical engineers and whatnot, telling me, well, this happened or that happened. But I don't care. I said, why is it? This has got to be something that everybody's got to change. You can't go on like this. This is like plain old stupid. But still, here we are, still fooling around with, like I say, an antique. I really cannot give a good answer as to why we even need a 12-volt battery. I mean, really and truly, we should be able to pull whatever voltage we want. I mean, I don't want to get into it, but at the end of the day, it's a real issue for all EVs, because I've seen it happen on like the Teslas. I've heard of it happening with the VWs. I know that it happens in China a lot, or did happen in China a lot when I was there. They were trying to solve these kinds of problems, but it's a real issue. So it's something that all the car companies have got to work their little tails off to try and figure out how to get around this. This is like stupid. It's holding back progress, and it's frightening people off. So
I understand, and I'm sure people love listening to our 12-volt battery woes. But I bet they're also interested in our take on the car too. And so I try, whenever I drive a new vehicle, I break it down into 3 or 4 categories. What are my impressions of the exterior design, the interior design, the driving experience, and then the charging experience? And so, if you want, we can talk a little bit about those things. I'm not terribly crazy about the exterior design. It's unremarkable. If you see this car on the road, it does look like a Volvo. I mean, it looks like it rolled off the Volvo assembly line. And in terms of styling, it looks average. It looks like a normal car. When I met up with my friend in Austin, that was the reason why I wanted to drive down to Austin. He's a Tesla owner and a real estate agent in the area, and Anwar Bak is his name. And so we met up, and we parked our cars side by side, and we were charging while we went to go have lunch. And when you sit the two together next to each other, it's a stark difference between sort of smooth, sleek styling in the Model 3 and the Polestar 2, which just has this sort of antiquated gasoline vehicle feel to it. That's my personal opinion, and I know people will differ, but the exterior design is just, it doesn't strike me as moving at all. But when I look at the Model 3, it just has a different feel. It elicits this, like, wow, the design is just, it's really striking. But the Polestar 2 just didn't really do anything for me.
Yeah, we found that the styles on the ID4 and the Polestar are polarizing. Some people like them, a lot of people don't. Some people say that, like I actually liked the ID4 styling, and then things started to fall apart shortly after that. But I think that for the type of buyer that they're looking for, I mean, there are people who are entrenched and can't think of another vehicle that they'd ever want to get involved with except for a Volvo because of the image of crashworthiness and stuff like that. So, I mean, you've got that type of buyer that they don't really care too much about the style. What they're looking for is the pedigree. So you've got that going on. And but for me, neither one of those cars is something I'm going to run out and want to purchase. I think if you looked at the styling of the three of them, this is including the Mach-E. If you looked at the three new contenders, most of us like the Mustang styling the best. It's classic and yet modern at the same time. So we liked that one. When it came to ranking them, that one came out number one, and it was a tie for number two. Like I said, a lot of people, myself included, like the ID4 better than the Polestar, but the styling aside, there's more to it than that. So what did you think of the fit, finish, the interiors and stuff like that?
Yeah, no complaints there. As expected, right? I mean, I had the same opinion about the Mach-E as well. It just feels well made. The driving experience, opening and closing the doors and cabin noise, ride quality, it all just feels very well built. So I don't have any criticism there. Oftentimes when I talk about the few complaints about Tesla is just that. It just feels like it's being made by a young automaker. But just the reverse for these tenured, experienced automakers. I think that they do excel in building the vehicle, the build quality, the fit and finish. And so I really spent no time commenting on that in my video, just because it's a given. It's really a given. There's other things that I think that they can improve on. So they did a great job. I will give them credit for that. But with an electric vehicle, there's other things that I think, in my opinion, are more important. You want a good built car, and you don't want it falling off or body panels falling off on the highway. But yeah, I thought that it was fine.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, when I got in and started playing, and I felt strongly that I was on my computer. This is my Lenovo, and everything was where I expected it to be. Everything worked the way I wanted it to work, and quite frankly, I think that I truly believe that Tesla's finally got a competitor. And I've said this a few times. I think that there's going to be only 3 or 4 different operating systems in the market, and this is going to be one of them.
I was blown away. This was my favorite part of the Polestar 2. They worked with Google to integrate Android Automotive, which interestingly is different from Android Auto. Android Auto is a phone-based app that then connects or relays to the car. Android Automotive is a complete operating system installed on the car. And, I'll just go out and right and say it. It is on par with user experience, usability, design, and functionality as what Tesla has to offer. This is the best non-Tesla infotainment system that I've experienced in the several handfuls of electric vehicles that I've reviewed. So I'm incredibly excited about Google Maps, Google Assistant, Google App Store, the Play Store. So I was shocked and surprised, because it doesn't just look good. Audi e-tron's user interface looks really pretty, but in terms of responsiveness, this is just on a whole nother level.
Yeah, so did I. There was absolutely nothing when it came to the interface that I didn't fall in love with. And like I said, I truly believe that this is a real Tesla contender. And I think that Tesla should, pick up and see what they can do about, making some changes based on the good points, if you like, that we both saw.
The Google Maps integration, I think, was done really, really well. I found myself as a Tesla owner slightly envious because in the Polestar 2, it does allow you to do waypoints. So you can set multiple stops in your route, and the car will adjust the battery range and recommend stops along the way. And this is something I know Tesla owners have been asking for from Tesla and Elon Musk for quite a while. This is a great feature, and it would seem like a very simple thing for Tesla, for example, to drop into their cars, and I think it would really improve that navigation experience. But this was something that as I was navigating two different places, to different places, it just was a very simple, add an additional route in your destination. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, well, back to the situation with the operating systems in general. Like I say, I think there's going to be a Tesla operating system, and I think that there's going to be what do you call it, system? I forgot their name just now, but anyway, Android system, Apple system, and it probably will never get here. But I think that Huawei and ZTE are also going to get in that game, and they're going to be the dominant forces. I mean, that is what they're good at. Anybody that's basically peddling cell phones and creating the experience of a cell phone, the correct experience of a cell phone, I think they're going to win. And I cannot see why the operating system is going to be anything else but.
Well, I love that there's an app store. There's a Google Play App Store, so you can download Spotify or any other supported apps for the Polestar 2, and I think that's outstanding. And again, I know Tesla's building out their own sort of in-house app store, but to open that up to third-party developers, I think is not a terrible idea and something that Tesla originally intended on doing when they first launched their car. This seems like, and I don't know for certain because I haven't looked into the details of this, but can third-party developers create third-party apps for the Google Play Store specifically for Polestar 2? If so, I think that's a really fantastic idea and something that Volvo and Polestar 2 should definitely get on board with.
Okay, so anyhow, I think that there's plenty of good things happening, and I think that, like I say, other people have been delinquent in noticing what's going on with Tesla, and then they come out with something like the ID.4. I think Tesla better continuously keep an eye on what's going on with things like what's going on inside the Polestar, and even the Mustang has a few good things that I liked. So this is a ever-changing game. I think the guys that are going to be sitting on the sidelines are going to be basically out of luck. Because we are in times of change. Actually, I have a slide for, in times of change, the learners will succeed, and the learned will be beautifully equipped for a world that no longer exists. I don't know who said that, but I use it all the time, and it's the truth. Sit back and relax and watch every opportunity slide by. So we'll have to see what happens. So the charging, how did that work for you?
Pretty seamless. As we were discussing earlier, the charging stations are built into Google Maps on the car. And so in a very similar way to Tesla, you just enter in the end destination. And then it gives you options for which charging brands to pick from. I just automatically went to Electrify America because I knew that they were reliable based on past experience. And it was easy. I could choose which charging brand, and then it also told me the charging speed, which I really appreciated, because all I cared about was getting as fast of a charge as possible. So I stopped once going each way and charged up. The experience of like getting the Electrify America account connected to the car, I think there's some ways that they can improve that. But I'm being really picky, and overall it was a positive experience.
So anyway, your overall impression, if you had a 1 to 10 kind of a scenario, where would you be with the Polestar?
It's ironic that you mentioned that, because this video review, I decided to start doing a rating system to give the car a grade. And so, as I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, it's broken down into four categories, and I rate those 4 categories from 1 to 10. The Polestar 2 came in at a 6.5 out of 10.
Well, that's pretty close to what we've had going on here. I personally, I've talked to a couple of guys, and they've said, you know what, if Tesla is a 10, then this is a 7. And that's kind of like where it is. But the Polestar, we have to change this, because everybody's just saying, well, there's the gold standard is the Tesla. But at the end of the day, that may not be the case anymore, because when you look at the build quality and whatever of the Polestar or the Mach-E or even the VW, that's in a totally different league. But when you get into all the other aspects, that's where things start to crash down a bit. So I think maybe what we need to do is rearrange our schedule here at Munro and say, okay, there's more people in the marketplace, and then rejudge everything. And I think Tesla's going to come in at a rock solid, 8.5 or something like that, because they're going to take a bit of a hit here and there on paint and things like. But at the end of the day, that starts to drop everybody into a new category as well, and maybe then the Polestar fall down to a 6 or something. But we're gonna have some meetings on that later on after Memorial Day. So yeah, but it's kind of funny that you whacked it basically at the same places where things are happening here with a 6.5, and we gave it a 7. Okay, Sean. Well, thanks so much for coming on our show, and hopefully you won't wind up with any more dead EVs. And again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.